the introduction and the verse are essentially the same chords going round and round. I'm going to start off on a D5 chord, so think a D major chord, but then just taking your middle finger off of the E string, and then you can change the fingering to just your first and second finger, so you're playing the D, G, and B strings, or you can keep it as your first finger and your ring finger if that's easier for you. The main thing about this song is sort of the groove and the strumming pattern as opposed to the chords themselves that gives it that kind of groove and the iconic sound of the song itself. And so with the strumming pattern, we're going to start off with a little upstroke on the G string. And then from there, we've got then down, up, down for the first little part. So we're going to go down, up, sort of palm muted. And then when you come to the second downstroke, we're going to emphasize the root note of the chord. So this time it's going to be the D of the D5 chord. So we've got up as an anacrusis and then down, up, down, accentuate the root note of the chord. And then we have down, down, and then up. And then on the up, that's when we change chord to the next chord in the sequence. So we have a quick up just on the first one. So up and then down, up, down, accentuate the root note, and then down, down, up, and that's where we change the chord. So from our D major chord, we then go to a D7 over C sharp. So just keeping the same, you can either sort of bar the second fret of the G and the B string with your first finger, or if you can if you've got wide enough fingers, you can sort of push down with your finger and get the two to actually ring out without actually having to bar them completely. And then you put your ring finger down on the fourth fret of the A string. So we have D. And then from there, we do the same strumming pattern again. So that little upstroke is the same as the little anacrusis that we had in the first bar. So we have up and then down, up, down, accentuate the root note, and then down, down, and then on the next note, on the next upstroke, we're then going to change chord again. Which is this time it's going to be a D over F sharp. So think normal D major chord, but again, sort of keeping the 5, so not having to have the top E string ring out. And then from there, you're just going to put your thumb round onto the second fret of the low E string. And then same thing again, so down, up, down, emphasize the root note, down, down, and then change chord. And this time to a G5 chord. And then same thing, down, up, down. And then this is the only bit where it changes slightly. We have down, up, where we go to our B minor 7 chord. So for our B minor 7, again, keeping your ring finger in place this time, you're going to put your first finger on the second fret of the A string and then your middle finger on the second fret of the G string. So we have this lovely B minor 7 chord. And then from there, same thing. So down, up, down, 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 up, change to a D7 over F sharp this time. And then again, down, up, down, emphasize the root note, down, down, up to a G5 chord to finish off, and then it just starts around again. So all together with the little anacrusis we have to begin with. And then it starts again with the My Stupid Mouth line. Now the only difference between the introduction and the verse itself is when you get to the end of the chord progression in the verse, instead of starting right from the beginning again, back to the D5 chord, it just goes halfway through, back to the B minor 7, then to the D major 7 over F sharp, and then to the G, and then it does that 2 more times through. So if we play the whole verse through, we have the first D, over C sharp, back to that B minor again, and then one more time, B minor 7, D major 7 over F sharp, and then 2 Gs before we're into the pre-chorus. So the main thing really is just focusing on getting the palm muted notes down as cleanly as possible, and also making sure that you get that down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up sort of vibe, and then also really focusing on the fact that the chord changes just before the beat each time, as opposed to changing on the 1 of the beat. So it's on the sort of 4 and the beat of the bar before instead. So the pre-chorus starts off on a G major chord, and you can either play it the way that John Mayer does by barring the 3rd fret of the E and the B string and then putting your thumb on the 3rd fret of the low E string, muting the A string. Or if your hands are a little bit smaller, you can always play it as a regular G major chord instead. And this time, with the strumming pattern, we're going to play it down as a full chord, and then just play the root note of the chord itself. So we have down, down, and then down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up. Very similar to sort of the like Don't Look Back in Anger, Wonderwall kind of strumming pattern. So down, root note, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up. And then from there, same strumming chord for the next 3 chords as well. So then we go to our F7, F sharp 7 over B flat. So ring finger on the 6th fret of the E string, muting the A string, either with your ring finger or with your first finger. Then your first finger on the 4th fret of the D string, pinky finger up on the 6th fret of the G string, and then your middle finger on the 5th fret of the B string. And then same thing, so down, root note, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up. And again, if your hands are a little bit smaller than John Mayer's, you can play like this, or if you've got nice big hands, you can always put your thumb round instead. From there, we then go to a B minor 11 chord. So again, sort of John Mayer style with your thumb if your hands are big enough, or otherwise play the other way. And so this time we've got the 7th fret of the, whichever way you want to finger it, 7th fret of the E string, 7th fret of the D string, 7th fret of the G string, and then 5th fret of the B string. Then we move up to a D7 sus4 chord. Now this one's a bit tricky, again, because if your hands aren't big enough to sort of play the muted note, it's really difficult to get the notes out. So you can either play it sort of round this way, or you can sort of fill out the chord and actually play the A string on the 12th fret as well if it's a little bit easier. So John Mayer style, we've got 10 on the E string, and then 10 on the D string, 12 up on the G string, and then 10 up on the B string. And then basically what we're going to go is from the D7 sus4, so with half the strumming pattern, so down, root note, down, down, up, and then from there we then move it down to just a regular D7, down, up, down, to finish off the chord. So same strumming pattern, but it just changes halfway through. And then from there we then go down to our G major. So the strumming pattern changes slightly here because the chords change in the middle of the bar as opposed to at the end of the bar. So we have down, down, mute, mute on a G chord, and then down, 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 mute, mute on a D over F sharp, and then an E minor 7 chord, and then root note, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, as we have with the other chords. And then same thing again, down, down, mute, mute, down, 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 mute, mute. And then from there we're going to do, it's either kind of a sort of muted 2 notes, or you can mute the 4 notes, so 4 muted notes there. And then we go to our F sus2, which is a really, really nice chord. So thumb over the 1st fret of the E string, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the D string, first finger on the 1st fret of the B string, and then your pinky finger all the way up on the 3rd fret of the high E string. And that's the same strumming pattern, so the down, root note, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up. And then we move all the way up to this really cool chord, which is the G sus2 over B. So think like a C-shaped G major chord, sus2, missing out the root note, and then putting your thumb over for the B. And then same thing, so down, root note, down, 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 up. And then we're back into the verse itself. So all together should hopefully sound something like this. Back into the verse. So the first electric guitar comes in the first pre-chorus, and we're going to start off with a G5 chord, so the same thing that's being played in the acoustic guitar part, either John Mayer style or regular style. We're going to play the full chord, and then we're going to change to a G major 7 chord by putting your first finger on the 2nd fret of the E string, just with a little upstroke. So we have G, and then G major 7. So then we're going to follow the chords of the acoustic guitar, and we're going to go to our F sharp 7 over B flat, but instead of strumming it, we're going to arpeggiate it. So we're going to play the E string, then the D and the G, so E, D, G, and then B, G. From there, we're then going to go to our B minor 11 chord in the same way as the acoustic does, and this time we're going to play E, D, G, D, and then from there we're going to go to a full B minor 7 chord. We're going to play B, G, D. So from there, we're then going to follow the chord up again and go to our D7 sus4 up here. And this time we're going to play E, G, B, G. And then as it changes to our D7 chord, we're then going to play E, D, and then G. But then this time as you go back to the D, you're going to play the 12th fret, so turn it into an actual D major chord as opposed to a D7. So put your ring finger on the 12th fret. From there, we're then going to slide down to a G5 chord, but instead of playing the whole chord, this time just the up to the B string, and then obviously muting the A string, D over F sharp, muting the A string again. Then we go up to a E minor 7, but instead of playing it the way it's played in the acoustic guitar. We're going to slide it up, and you can hear it in the track. There's a little slide as you go up. So think sort of as you're moving up, you're going to go to the 8th fret of the B string. So after the D, slide up to the 8th fret of the B string with your ring finger. First finger on the 7th fret of the A string, muting the D string. And then back down to our G again. D over F sharp, and then we do the same chord as in the acoustic guitar, but without the high E string. So F, sus2, and then up to the G sus2 over B. So all together, we should hopefully have something like this. Into the intro riff. So the second pre-chorus follows the same chords, just with a few different variations. So this time we're going to start on a G major 7th chord instead, and we're going to play the full chord, and then we're going to play the 2nd fret of the E string, open E string, B string, and then G string. So the F sharp 7 over B flat's exactly the same, except instead of finishing the chord on the G string, you play the low E string just before you go to the B minor 11. So we have, then up to the B minor 11. And this time we're going to play E, G, D, G, B, G, D, and we're not going to change to the B minor 7, it's just going to stay on the B minor 11 chord, and then up to the D 7 sus 4. So we're going to play the same as the first time through to begin with on the D 7 sus 4 chord, so the E, G, B, G, but then this time we're going to play back down again to the E, and then this time as you go to the D, regular D7, we're just going to play E, G, and then B at the top before we do the same thing. So G, D over F sharp, E minor, G, D over F sharp, F sus2, G sus2 over B. And then we're into the chorus. So the second electric guitar does something quite cool in the pre-choruses, in that it plays what the first electric guitar plays, but in the opposite pre-chorus. So while the first electric guitar in the first pre-chorus is playing, the second electric guitar is playing and moving through as if it's the second pre-chorus, even though it's the first pre-chorus. And then it plays up to the D7 sus 4 to the D7 chord each time, but doesn't play the G and then going down to the G, D over F sharp, and then the E minor part. That's only played by the first electric guitar. And so everything you've learned from the first electric guitar, swap it round and just play that in the opposite pre-chorus on the second electric guitar, and it's that simple. So the intro comes in after the pre-chorus on the first electric guitar, and you're going to start on the 2nd fret of the D string, sliding up to the 4th fret, and then catch the 4th fret of the G string, and then you're going to play the 4th fret of the D string again, and then slide back down, but let the G string keep ringing out, so you hear that slide back down as well as you hear the D string slide down, so we end up with this. So even though you're not playing, you hear it as you're sliding down, because you're keeping that string ringing out, so we have. From there, we're then going to do the same thing, but instead of being on the 4th fret of the G string, we're going to go onto the 5th fret of the B string, but the D string is going to stay the same. So we're going to go like that. So all together, we've got ringing out, and then from there, we're then going to play the open G string, B string on the 3rd fret, and then we're going to go and do a quick hammer on from the D string up to the from the 2nd to the 4th fret. So slight finger change, and then the same thing again, so the little slide up and down, and then we just arpeggiate a G sus2 chord. So 5th fret of the D string, 2nd fret of the G string, and then 3rd fret of the B string. Then we're into the verse. So the second verse on the first electric guitar's got this really cool kind of finger style chicken picking sort of thing. It's all done with your fingers. So if you're going from playing the verse with a pick, if you put it either in between your thumb and your finger or in your first finger, whichever is more comfortable for you. Then you can go back to playing with the pick when the chorus comes along later on. So we're going to keep the same position, which is going to be your first finger on the second fret of the D string and your middle finger on the third fret of the B string. And then every now and again, you're going to slide your first finger over so that you can bar it onto the second fret of the D string as well. So we're going to start off with just 2 muted notes. So we're going to start off with 2 muted notes on the D string. You're going to play the first one with your thumb and then the second one with your finger. So down, then up, kind of like as you would if you were strumming. So then mute, mute, and then from there, we're going to play the second fret of the D string, fourth fret of the D string. So mute, mute, 2, 4, and then we've got the sort of muted note on the G string. So like that. And then from there, we're then going to play the 2 strings that we're holding down. So we have mute, mute, like that. And then we have sort of a muted note again, and then the second fret of the G string, second fret of the D string. And then from there, we're then going to do a little muted note and then slide up and down. So on the shape that we've got here, so slide it from 2 and 3 to 4 and 5, and then back again. And then the second fret of the G string, second fret of the D string, and then a fourth fret of the D string. So all together, we have something like this. And again, it's played very quietly in the back of the mix. From there, we're then going to move on to the next bar. So the second bar, this time we're going to start in the same way. So mute, mute, 2, 4 on the D string, mute on the G, and then pluck the second fret of the G and then the third fret of the B all together. So, but then this time, as we come back down, so mute, 2 on the G, 2 on the D, and then up to 4 on the D this time. So this time we're going to play the second fret of the G and then the third fret of the B again. So all together so far we have, and then from there we're going to play mute, mute again. So mute on the G, mute on the D, and then second fret of the G, second fret of the D, and then finally the fourth fret of the D. So all together we have something like this. And then the third time through, we're going to do the same first half. So the same mute, mute, 2, 4, mute, pluck, and then 2, 4. But then this time we're going to wait a little bit longer before we go into the next bit. So we're going to pluck again, G and the B, and then this time we're going to play 5, 4, 2, and then 0 on the D string. So all together we have like that, which is a really cool little riff, which adds a slight little variation. So the first 4 bars will hopefully sound something like this. Then moving on to the next 4 bars. So this time it changes ever so slightly. So this time we've got mute, mute, and then instead of plucking the 2, 4, we go straight to the plucking on the G and the B. So we have, and then the same thing again. So mute, 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 and then pluck. So the first 2 you play with your thumb, and then the next 2 you play finger and then thumb, sort of to get there, just to be able to play everything sort of comfortably. So thumb, thumb, pluck, finger, thumb, pluck, like that. From there we then play our little mute thing we've been playing before. So, and then up again to the G and the B string, and then mute, mute, second fret of the G, second fret of the D, and then fourth fret of the D. So all together we have. Then we're going to do the same thing again. But then instead of going as we did for the first time, this we're going to go and then get down to the 5th fret of the D string instead. So all together so far we've got. Then the third time through we've got mute, and then this time instead of going so double mute, this time we're going to play the second fret of the G, second fret of the D, so, and then down to the 4th fret of the D. So far we have, and then the same thing again. So we're playing the same thing 2 times through. So all together so far, so we have mute, 2 on the G, 2 on the D, 4 on the D, and then mute, and then the pluck on the D and the D. So mute again. So then we have, and then 2 on the G, 2 on the D, 4 on the D, and then pluck on the D and the G then, and then muted, and then so on the D and the G, and then 2 on the G, 2 on the D, and then finally we get to our up to our G sus2 chord to bring us into the pre-chorus. So altogether the second 4 bars should hopefully sound something like this. So it's more of a kind of a feel thing than it is exactly which notes you're playing. I've tabbed it out so that there's specific notes that are being played, but again, it's kind of more of how it feels natural to play. So there's sometimes where it feels natural to play finger and thumb when you've got two muted notes together, and sometimes it feels more natural to play just two thumb notes instead. And so it just very much depends on what feels comfortable to you to play as you work through it. So the second electric guitar also appears in the second verse, and it's a part that's so small it's barely worth mentioning, but it's a nice little addition to the verse, and you can sort of hear it ever so slightly in the background as it's being played. So it starts off on the second fret of the D string, sliding up to the fourth fret, catch the second fret of the G, then open D, fourth fret of the A, slide up to the fifth fret of the A, and then you're going to do that little riff 3 times. So you have our slide, then repeat, there's a tiny little part, and then you're into the second pre-chorus. So then in the third verse, there's a similar kind of fingerstyle pattern that goes along, but this time it goes over the sort of B minor to D over F sharp to E part. So this time we're going to start off on the second fret of the D string and then up to the fourth fret, so 2, 4. And you're going to play that with your thumb each time. And then you're going to play, again, that familiar sort of pluck on the second fret of the G string, third fret of the B string, so. And then back down to the fourth fret of the D, up to that shape again, so like that. And then from there, we then have 4, 2, 4 on the D. So, and then again, that little pluck on the G and the B. So, and then back down to the fourth fret of the D string again. So, and then from there, we're going to then do the little slide up and down on the D and the G string. So from 2 and 3 to 4 and 5, and then back again. And then to finish off, we then have 4, 2, 4. Again, so all together we have this, which is just a really, really cool sounding riff, and that plays through 3 times, exactly the same, so for 3 bars. So. And then fourth bar into that G sus2 voicing that's in the introduction. And then we're into the chorus. So the chorus is essentially the same chords as the verses. The only difference is that the strumming pattern stays the same through all of the chords, so it doesn't have the sort of variation when it goes to the B minor 7, and there's also an A sus4 chord in there as it goes around the second time. So it starts off in the same way, so D, D major 7 over C sharp, D over F sharp, G, B minor 7, D major 7 over F sharp, G, and this time up to B minor 7 again, down to D major 7 F sharp, then here we go G, then we go to A sus4, and then we go back to our B minor 7, D major 7 over F sharp, G, and then it goes to a G minor 7 chord, so barring the D, G, B and E strings with your first finger, and then playing your thumb over the E string and muting the A string, either with your first finger or with thumb, whichever is more comfortable. That's the arm never speaking up again. And then from there it goes back into the verse again, so the verse chords. So the same D, D major 7 over C sharp, D over F sharp, G, B minor 7, D major 7 over F sharp. And then this time it goes to a G minor 9 chord, so think the same chord as you had before for the G minor 7, but then you just put your pinky finger up on the 5th fret of the E string. And then you just play D, E, B, G, and then play the chord again. So that last bit all together, we end up with this. Before it goes back into the third verse again. Then the second chorus, the only difference is the second time it goes round, so instead of going to the B minor 7, D major 7 over F sharp, G and then A, it goes down to a E minor 7 instead, D over F sharp, G, A7, A sus4, and then back round again. So if you play that through just the last chorus, we this time have D, D major 7 over C sharp, D over F sharp, G, B minor 7, D major 7 over F sharp, G, and then this time we've got E minor 7, D over F sharp, G, A sus4, B minor 7, D major 7 over F sharp, G, and then the last Oh I'm Never Speaking Up Again is just the same G minor 9 chord that we had before, just played again. So we have Oh I'm Never Speaking Up Again, just played 4 times through, and the last time, and then back into the original introduction again. Sorry, with D over F sharp that time. And just G, G, G. So the two choruses are very similar. The only difference is how they end. So we're going to start off on a D sus2 voicing, and we're going to play G, B, E, B on that first chord. We're then going to go to a sort of D9 kind of voicing, and then from there we're going to do the same thing. So G, B, E, B. So far we have. So from there we're going to go to a D over F sharp voicing, so 4th fret of the D, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B, and this time we're going to play D, G, B, and then back down to the D again, and then we're going to go to a G sus2 voicing, so from that last chord you just put your pinky finger on the 5th fret of the D string instead of the 4th fret with your ring finger, and this time we're going to play, instead of playing D, G, B, D, this time we're going to play D, G, B, G instead. So far we've got our D sus2, D9, D over F sharp, G sus2. Then from there we're going to go to our kind of like a B minor 11 voicing. There's that little slide in from the 3rd to the 4th fret on the G string. Again, G, B, E, B, then same D sus2 voicing again, G, B, E, B, then 2 times through of our G sus2 chord again. Then we're going to go back up to our B minor 11, then our D add 9 voicing. From there we're then going to go to our D over F sharp, G sus2, and then again B minor 11, D sus2, and then G sus2 twice through. Then the ending of the first chorus we just have a G minor 7 voicing, as we do as the acoustic guitar is playing. Then the second chorus, after you get to the final G sus2, we have our G minor 11 voicing, so same thing, so G minor 7, just with your pinky finger up on the 5th fret of the E string, you're going to play the note, and then as the acoustic guitar strums it the second time, we have a sort of slap harmonic. So if you aim for, as you're sort of slapping the string, try and slap 12 frets above where you're barring. So if we're on the 3rd fret here, we're going to slap on the 15th fret, and you're literally going to slap the note, and the harmonic should then ring out. So we have like that, which is a really, really cool sound. So we have strum the note, and then slap harmonic, and then we go up to a D sort of minor 6/9 voicing, so same voicing as you have for the D minor 9, but then just put your ring finger on the 5th fret of the B string as well. So then we have really cool sounding voicing, and then same thing again. But then this time, instead of slapping the 15th fret, you want these two notes, the two harmonics up here on the 17th fret to ring out. So then you're going to slap the 17th fret just on aiming for the top 2 strings. So all together so far we have our G minor 9, slap harmonic, G minor 6/9, slap harmonic, and then the acoustic guitar takes over for the rest of the song.